Well, I've been tracking a silent thief in your bank account. And you see, the evidence points to a crime you didn't even know you were committing. The good girl tax. Let's step into the crime scene for a moment and examine the digital footprint of your typical work week. I'm looking at your calendar right now, and the clues are everywhere. It's cluttered, it's frantic, and it's bleeding your potential dry. I see the 2 p.m. meeting where you volunteered to take the notes, even though it's not your job. I see the 4:30 p.m. quick favor for a colleague that ended up stealing 2 hours of your deep work time. And I see the 6 p.m. email where you apologized, right? For a delay that wasn't even your fault. As a detective of human behavior, I look at these markers and I see a high performer who is operating at maximum capacity, but receiving a minimum return on her investment. You talented, you disciplined, and you're arguably the hardest worker in the room. Yet I'm noticing a disturbing trend. While you're busy being the reliable one and smoothing over every office conflict, your peers are leapfrogging ahead of you into the roles and the salary brackets you've earned 3 times over. You're stuck in a cycle of likability optimization. And honestly, it's a high-performance killer. Every time you prioritize being liked over being respected, you're paying an invisible compounding tax on your career. We need to analyze the motive here, Why are you sacrificing your cognitive bandwidth to solve problems that aren't yours? I've spent months investigating why so many brilliant women hit a glass ceiling they accidentally built themselves. And the evidence leads to a shocking realization. What if the very traits you were told make you a great employee, the selflessness, the constant availability, the relentless politeness, were actually the ones bankrupting your future? Let's look at the data, because the profile of your good girl persona is starting to look less like a virtue and more like the... While you were busy being helpful, perfecting the formatting on a slide deck or chasing down signatures for a project you don't even own, your strategic peer was doing something very different. He wasn't taking notes. He wasn't worrying about the office birthday card. He was focused entirely on high-leverage activities that move the needle on revenue. The helpful girl gets a thank you, a polite smile, and maybe a we couldn't do it without you. But the strategic peer, they get the equity. They get the lead on the new account. They get the $50,000 raise that you're currently subsidizing with your unpaid labor. You are essentially paying a compliance tax every time you prioritize being liked over being respected. You've traded your professional leverage for social safety. And the ROI on that trade? It's a disaster. I'm seeing a clear correlation here. High compliance almost always leads to low leverage. By being the person who never says no, you've unintentionally taught your organization that your contribution is a commodity, not an asset. You've become the utility player who keeps the lights on, while others are seen as the visionaries who build the future. But as I dig deeper into your profile, I'm finding that this isn't just a habit you can switch off with a simple no. There is a much deeper, more calculated reason why your brain is terrified of being anything other than good. And the next piece of evidence I've uncovered suggests that your helpfulness isn't actually about being nice at all. It's a sophisticated defense mechanism that is currently sabotaging your net worth. What happens when the person you're trying to please becomes the very person holding you back? That's where the case gets truly complicated.
Here is the Sherlock-level realization I've made after studying the psychology of influence. Respect is the currency of high performance, not pleasantry. Conviction is a premium asset because, it's rare. People with conviction are willing to be uncomfortable. They're willing to be the villain in someone else's story for 5 minutes if it means protecting the mission and their own value. When you stop trying to be the most liked person in the room You finally have the space to be the most respected person in the room. But there's a specific psychological trigger that makes this shift feel almost impossible. It's a shadow side of your personality that you've been taught to celebrate, well, since you were 5 years old. To understand why you're still paying this tax, even when you know better, we have to look at the evidence behind the compliance mirror. And trust me, the reflection isn't what you think it is. So, how do we actually stop the bleeding? If we're treating your career like a high-stakes investigation, then we need what I call a correction protocol. You see, we aren't just changing your habits. We are retraining the market, your colleagues, your boss, and your clients to stop seeing you as a convenient resource and start seeing you as a high-value asset. I've broken this down into 3 specific files in your high-performance dossier. First, we start with the shadow work audit. I want you to act as a forensic accountant for your own time, you know? For the next 7 days, I need you to log every single task you perform that is not in your official job description. Every quick favor, every meeting you took just to be polite, and every project you inherited because someone else was, well, too busy. At the end of the week, I want you to calculate the lost ROI. If you spent 5 hours on someone else's administrative mess and your hourly value was $50, you just handed over $250 of your life.
Finally, we have the descent drill. This is where we rebrand your identity through strategic friction. Right now, your brand is agreeable. We need to shift it to strategic. I want you to commit to offering just one, dissenting opinion per week in a professional setting. It doesn't have to be a confrontation. I mean, it's as simple as saying, I see the merit in that, but have we considered the risk to our Q3 targets if we go that route? By introducing calculated friction, you force the room to stop looking at you as a yes person and start looking at you as a critical thinker. You are retraining their brains to expect value from you, not just compliance. By following this protocol, you're effectively rewriting your professional DNA. You're moving from the person who keeps the engine running to the person who decides where the car is going. But as you start to pull back and reclaim your value, you're going to notice something unsettling. The people around you, the ones who have benefited from your good girl tax for years, aren't going to just let you walk away. In fact, there is a specific psychological phenomenon that happens right when you start to succeed, a sort of trap door designed to pull you back into your old role. And if you don't know how to spot this trap, all the boundaries in the world won't save your bank account. The evidence is clear, and the verdict is in. You see, the paper trail of that missing $50,000 doesn't lead to a bad economy or a stingy boss. It leads straight back to the good girl tax. But here is the ultimate plot twist in our investigation. When you finally stop paying that tax, the biggest ROI isn't actually the money. It's the authority you reclaim. Look, I want you to recognize the shift that happens in your brain when you move from compliance to conviction. Compliance is reactive, right? It's you constantly scanning the room for micro expressions of disapproval and adjusting your value just to keep everyone else comfortable. Conviction is proactive. It's when you realize that your time is a finite resource and your expertise is a high-value asset, not a community service. Think back to that woman we saw at the beginning of this case. You remember who? The one sitting at the edge of the conference table, frantically taking notes for a project she's overqualified for, while her peers lean back. Our investigation ends here, but your transformation is just starting. I want to know, what is the one office housework task, the note-taking, the party planning, the emotional labor, that you are officially firing yourself from today? Tell me in the comments, right? And if you're ready to stop paying the tax and start leading with conviction, subscribe to Power of Mindset and join our circle of elite high performers. The case is closed, but your new life is wide open.